Hi, my name is Matt Minton. I'm with Geek Vibes Nation, and today I'm interviewing Zach Kornfeld, who is best known as a creator and star on the highly popular YouTube channel The Try Guys that has amassed 8 million subscribers overall. And today we are chatting with his new short film, Ouch. Thank you so much, Zach, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And the first thing that I have to tell you is that you're here, my camera's here, so I'm not making eye contact with you, and it's not because I don't, it's because I am making eye contact with you. So I just need you to know that in my heart.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, how are you doing today? How's everything going?
I'm feeling great. I'm so excited. A week from today, we're going to be having the international premiere at Fantasia. I'm going to be flying out this weekend. I am so unbelievably honored to be a small part of this festival. It is the greatest genre festival in the world, and so to have my short playing there is extremely gratifying, extremely humbling. I'm excited to see it with a crowd and hope people like it. I'm feeling jazzed.
It's very exciting. And I know this film, I believe, premiered at the LA Shorts International Film Festival this past weekend.
We did a crew screening last night, and it was great to see it with them, and I appreciate the LA Shorts Festival for putting together such a great event where I got to see it on a big screen. It was very cool. I didn't enjoy it. I was clenched the whole time, anxious. I think I breathed twice during the 9 minute run. So I'm hoping that by getting that one out of the way, I'll be a little more prepared for next week, but I doubt it.
That definitely makes sense. I mean, it must be such a personal and vulnerable film to finally be sharing this film with an audience, especially, at a big film festival like Fantasia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, man. I mean, we could talk about that anxiety for the next 30 minutes, but no, it's honestly less to do with even the subject matter and more just doing a film like this at a festival like Fantasia. My hope and goal was to make something that could stand on its own, separate from myself as a creator, certainly separate from myself as someone who's known for their digital work. So I want this to be seen by an audience who has no idea who the hell I am, and hopefully they get a kick out of it.
Awesome. Yeah, when I was watching, I was just imagining how great this would be with a full crowd. So
I
that's very
hope so.
exciting. But yeah, I'd love to sort of start talking about sort of, you know, where the inception for this film started. And also sort of just, I'm curious, like how long did the production process take overall?
A long fucking time, man. If you don't mind me cursing. Yeah, this film is an embarrassingly long time in the making. So I spent about a year on the script. It began as an exercise to figure out ways to visualize something that is invisible. I have an autoimmune disease, it's an invisible illness. I can't see it, my doctors can't see it. Tests can sort of track it, but it's something that is hard to grasp even for me as the person with it. So I began with just a series of visuals. How would I describe this to someone over drinks? What would I conjure? What images could capture this thing? And I quickly turned to the proclivity I had for genre filmmaking, for dabbling in different monster movies and horror motifs and all of that. I wrote a script that was maybe about 25 or 30 pages. I threw it all out. There's not a single visual from that script that is in this final one. And I wrote it again, and it was still too long. And then I said, hey, maybe I can take all of the dialogue out. It was using voiceover as a crutch. And so I stripped away, I also tried to strip away some of the tendencies that I had built up from distributing stuff on YouTube. So things like voiceover, talking to camera, I tried to take all of those elements out to see if I could really let visuals lead the way. Then it came time to actually make the thing. And that was a several months long process of, now you have a script. Okay, how are we going to make it? turns out you wrote something that's too expensive to shoot. It's gonna, the original script was gonna take 5 days and was gonna cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was just not feasible to do as a short film. And so I took it, I thought about what is the core of what I want to do here as a filmmaker, what's important to me, what is negotiable. I found a location that allowed us to make many locations within one, and then I rewrote it to that. It was just this process of iteration again and again and again, then bringing in my collaborators, Topher Osborne, my DP, my production designer, Jasmine, and just starting to then really let the film come to life with them, and figuring out all the specifics we could do. I told you it was a long time in the making, so I'm sorry for the long answer. Then it got delayed because of just some things over here. And that then gave me the opportunity to take another pass to really focus on the storyboards, to just get as specific as possible. We wanted a simplicity of our cinematography. And what I mean by that is not the camera moves themselves, because the camera's insane and jumping all over the place in this film. But we knew that if we could be specific about what we wanted to shoot, then we'd be able to get more. So let's trim all the fat, don't film anything that we don't need, know what you need and know what coverage you don't need. And then the edit itself took a while as well. Long story short, I got hospitalized soon after filming, then I got married. So about 3 months later, I came to the edit bay and said, okay, what the hell did we shoot? That was a huge journey of trial and error in and of itself. And then comes the festival process, which is just submitting and waiting. And that was required a lot of patience, but finally we are here. I wrote a big board when we started this project of what the best case scenario could be. And of course, it's people seeing it and loving it, but Fantasia was at the top of that list. And so I consider myself very grateful to be sitting here at the end of that long journey. And hopefully it was worth something.
Absolutely. I just have to shout out when you were talking about all of the different collaborators on the film. The production design was one of my absolute favorite parts. Just like the posters in the doctor's office. It's
Yeah.
just like there's so many little details that I noticed on repeat viewings as well. So I think
That's
that's
great.
so
Yeah, they absolutely knocked it out of the park. We had such a talented team, and with everyone, this is a movie about pain, but it's also about what you love. And so the form of the movie, it is filled with cinematic homages and genre references and all of that. And so the mandate was that every single person needed to bring something specific that they loved, something that made them laugh, some obscure reference to a movie that inspired them as a kid, just to fill the frame with all of these little specifics, so that the whole thing is, it's the main, not to give away the ending, but the movie itself is a box of the things we love the most, that make this thing called life worth living.
yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I'm curious, like, there's obviously so many homages and things that you were inspired by. Like, I love the use of the split screen during the party scene, for example. I'm curious, like, what your approach was with bringing in your inspirations, um, perhaps specifically with films that had kind of dealt with, invisible illnesses before, or ways that films maybe hadn't portrayed it in the most accurate light before.
Yeah, as a, I basically, I wanted to, it, it felt like an opportunity to get a little selfish, to be gratuitous without being gratuitous. And so I knew that there was an opportunity, because I was trying to show something that is hard to wrangle, that we could play in all these different dimensions, that we could do a horror film with Michel Gondry magical realism motif, with a little 1950s alien, B movie send up with we could play within all of these domains all at once because it was all in service of this one broader goal. In talking, I've circled myself away from even remembering what your question was.
Yeah, and no, I think that's a great um that's a great answer. I think, and also I'm curious, like, were there films that you sort of watched before, or sort of gaps that you sort of saw in films not accurately portraying invisible illnesses, or ways it was portrayed before that you kind of wanted to amend here?
Interesting. No, I wasn't actually all that inspired from films within the disability world. It was really leaning on the moments that live in my head and in my imagination. And sometimes those are moments you misremember from movies.
Mm.
There's like shots that I've imagined from movies that don't exist, but it's the way that that movie made me feel. And so I came up with a huge document of just all of the different very specific scenes that I wanted to steal. It's like, hey, can we take this color palette from Pan's Labyrinth and this camera shot from Poltergeist and this rustling of papers from Army of Darkness, and can we throw them all together in one scene? The amount of the references in my document, it's like we had all of those that I mentioned. We had Josie and the Pussycats and Spider-Man 2, and there there was a lot of love to give around. There was no shortage of homages and from high art and low art and everything in between.
I absolutely love that, and I think it really shines on the screen. I mean, I think the I was just like always taken by the camera movement. It just feels so fluid, and everything is just it just really pulls you in. So I think it's a great example of like how to pay
I
your
have
homages.
I've kept in my drawer because I just feel like a crime to get rid of them. I'm gonna have to unblur my screen here, and you're gonna see how dirty my office is. But I have my storyboards, and you can see my dog sleeping. But that was so fun to like really. I mean, you can see how terrible of an artist I am. But to really get specific, because with that, economy of storytelling, we knew that we had and now I'm just looking at these for the first time in a while. This is fun. These are like little aliens.
I
I
love
think
the aliens.
yeah, we did pretty well there. But it's like we really tried to think a lot about transitions and how things were going to flow from one scene to the other, and how the camera could really give this life. And then also, I'm going to distract myself if I keep looking at that. But also give the piece kind of two distinct sequences, right? There's the opening, I guess the first half, which is meant to be, okay, hide my background. The first half, which is meant to be relentless and overwhelming and fun in this party. And the more dynamic it is, the more you'll feel the wind taken out, or the rug pulled out from underneath you in the second half. And so I had this mandate when we got to some of the scenes in the second half that the camera wasn't allowed to move.
Hmm.
And that was really hard for me, but I knew that it would create, hopefully, this feeling of unease and tension, and create a really jarring contrast between the first and second half.
Absolutely. I think that really comes across. And I think just that, without of course getting into spoilers, but just that moment of realization and acceptance
Hmm.
towards the end. And I was also curious, kind of in the vein of like genre inspirations, kind of like the visual motif that you've kind of designed, without trying to explain it without like spoiling.
I'm
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
but sort of that, the creature design that you kind of bring in towards the end. I'm curious, sort of how you conceived of that.
That was so cool. That was a collaboration with Athena Lawton, who was my costume designer. She is so dope and talented, and we just started throwing ideas around together. She came up with some sketches, and uh, once it was brought to life, I couldn't believe how effective and terrifying it was. Um, a a theory that we both had, or I guess that we all had, was that if you got specific, even if the audience doesn't know what the specific is, like it won't translate to them in a literal sense, maybe at least they'll still feel it. And so with that creature at the end, we wanted it to represent different metaphors for pain. It has uncertain borders, right? You can't really tell the shape of its body all the time. And then even its body, it's almost like furry, right? So it has these jagged edges. It looks painful, right? It's sharp. But it also you can't quite make out what it is shot to
Mhm.
shot because it's impossible to ever know. Even it's you get this terrifying shot of its teeth, which I do have a drawing of here. I was again looking at it, not to spoiler. No, people don't want the spoilers. There you go. And she was like, what if we do rows of teeth? And I said, that's perfect because once pain brings you in, it's hard to get out. And you can imagine a creature like that having teeth like that like
Mhm.
almost just like barbed wire that grabs hold of you. So no one watching the movie is going to think that. It's that is not a detail that translates literally to anyone's mind. But I think at least having that intention gives you something to work off of. But yeah, so cool to make that creature. I'll give a shout out to Miles Bonsignore, who's a great friend of mine who played the man in the suit. He was the monster, and brought just such a great physicality to it
Mhm.
to be able to kind of just in a very subtle way change the creature's expression from aggressive to questioning,
Mhm.
in a way that wasn't over the top. I'll also tell you that I have that creature suit in my garage. And so I will regularly forget that it's there and open the door and scare the ever loving shit out of myself. So that's a fun party favor from the film.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I first saw it, because I don't know if Spider was at all what you were going for, but
Yeah, yeah.
that was my first that was like what I first thought of. And I was like, I have to look away. But then I slowly was able to sort of reel into it. So
Yeah, it's funny. Spider-Man has come up a lot in this movie, and I didn't realize that I literally ended it with a Spider-Man. So there you go.
there you go. And I'm curious, like talking a little bit more about some of your collaborators. I know you have Nick as your executive producer, who also, has worked as a production coordinator and supervisor for so many films, like Under the Silver Lake, Nocturnal Animals, to name a few. So I'm curious, what was that collaboration like on the film?
Well, so Nick Rufka actually is one of our at Second Try, my company, over at Try Guys. He is our COO. He was previously one of our senior producers. So we've had this great collaborative relationship for a long time. And I brought him this script at the very, very beginning. And the question was, I even sent it to him. It's like, hey, we probably can't make this, but just take a look and let me know. It's something that like I'm writing it for me. Give me some notes. And he's also a tremendous screenwriter in his own right as well. Um, and he was the one that said, no, this is sick. We're gonna make this. I don't know how, but we're gonna make this happen. He brought on Doug Billich, my producer, who was really the superhero that put this film on his back and made it happen. He and his husband Paul Rocha, they as a producing duo figured out ways to make this happen. They looked at my script and said, we can't make this, and here's why. But if we change this, this, and that, maybe we have a chance. If we find a location that can check off all these boxes, maybe then we can make it in 1 day instead of in 4 days, those kind of things. And then Doug is just, he's a great guy and someone that people love working with. And so he was able to put the project out to some old friends of his. That's how, Topher Osborne, my DP, got involved. And I'm lucky that he read the script and got excited about it. And we met and hit it off, and the rest is history.
Awesome. And I'm also curious, just like from your perspective as somebody who is wearing multiple hats as an actor, a director, writer, I'm curious just like what that experience was like for you.
It's tough, man. It's you each hat you wear wants to have a long talk with the other hat and has some notes for them. So I would say that as a director, I've got some big notes for actor writer Zach. And I would say that actor Zach, has some notes for the director, all of those around. I would have loved to just direct this. It it I enjoyed acting, but it's so hard to do both. It required obviously a ton of trust with my collaborators, because there were some times where it just, we would rehearse, I would go into Video Village, I would check it out, but at a certain point I had to say, we all know what we're trying to achieve here, and if you feel good, we got to move on, or else we're not going to make our day. But the acting of it all was a lot harder than I anticipated. Specifically, that final scene requires a level of emotion that I wasn't sure if I was going to be capable of delivering. And so I asked on the day. I did it like a rehearsal with a friend of mine at my house who's a really talented actor, and I was like, "Hey, can you just like teach me how to act? Because I know how to direct, but I don't know how to make my own face do it, and I can't see what I'm doing, so I can't yell at myself to make it better." Um, so on the day, I knew I had to deliver some emotion, and I asked Miles, he was in the monster suit, and I said, "How do I make myself sad?" And he said, "Go away and listen to some sad music." And so I set up the shot. I told Topher, I said, "Hey, here's what we're trying to achieve. We've storyboarded this to death. You know what we're doing. We've scouted this. You guys got this. I'm gonna go for a walk." And so we were in this dank basement, and I put in my AirPods, and I couldn't think of a sad song, so I just went to the soundtrack of Hamilton, and I listened to the ending about the orphanage, and then I started laughing that was the only song I could think of, and I'm like, this is now this is backfiring. I'm now laughing at myself for being so lame that I can only think about the orphanage from Hamilton. But some way somehow we got there. Yeah, it was very fun. But certainly my favorite moments in the movie and my favorite moments to direct were the moments that I got to work with the incredible ensemble. I think Marissa Rivera gives just the funniest performance in the whole thing, getting to play with Miles and that. A lot of friends, Garrett Bernard and Kelsey Dara and Jimmy Wong, who let me torture him and drag him down a hallway. Eli Henry, who plays the doctor and is just one of my favorite actors to watch. I got to work with a lot of people who I just like. I dig, and that was the most fun part. I look forward to making a film where I don't have to stare at my face all day.
It's really impressive. And I think I mean, that's the way to do it is to, I feel like making films with your friends. I feel like there's just no better feeling than that. And I feel like that completely comes through, even as someone who wasn't sure like how you knew all of the actors in the film, but you just feel that sense of ensemble and
Oh, that's
trust.
great. No.
So, so, but yeah, I guess as we're sort of wrapping up here, I'm curious kind of what you're kind of looking forward to the most with the film. We're out, it's about a week from the Fantasia premiere, just how you're feeling.
Yeah, I am. I'm just really excited to see it with an audience, and to see what an audience of genre lovers thinks about something like this. Um, Excuse me. I'm excited to just be at the festival, to feel that energy, to see some other movies. again, I'm so grateful to get to be part of that larger tapestry of this festival. I grew up going to the Tribeca Film Festival when I lived in New York. I think the first one I attended was 11 years old. So there's just something infectious about the energy of being at a festival. And then from there, we'll see. I would love for this to play at a couple more festivals, but I only want it to play at ones that I can go to. So I'm trying to map out the next couple months and
Mhm.
see if anything can line up. And then from there, I think probably at this rate, early in 2025, we'll release it online and uh, see what people think. It's a movie that I made for myself. Obviously, the message of the chronic pain is very personal. The Everything I'm doing with the visuals is deeply personal and just kind of a wish fulfillment for me as a someone who has wanted to make films my whole life. But I also know that this has the opportunity to be really meaningful and cathartic to people with uh, any disability or chronic pain or invisible illness, disease, any mental health struggles, you name it. So I'm hoping that people can see it and be moved or find some sort of joy from it.
Awesome. I think that's a great note to wrap us up. Is there anything else people should know about the film? Just anything at all that you want to plug or mention?
No, I mean, I can't shout out my collaborators enough. I'm grateful that they believed in me and believed in the vision and just work with talent. Be good to people and they'll want to help you out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for your time. This was really awesome. It was such an honor to get to speak to you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this film find its audience.
Thank you, and I appreciate you watching. I'm glad to hear that you liked it. Thanks for watching it more than once. I think you might hold the record beyond me and my editor. So
It's a great film to rewatch, and I
uh,
hope
yeah.
I'm sure people down the line will also be re re uh, revisiting it multiple times. It really has that. It has a great rewatchability factor. So
Thanks, man. Well, pleasure, and well, I won't see you at the fest, but maybe we'll run into each other sometime here in LA. Pleasure.
awesome. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Matt. Thanks, Zach. I really appreciate it.